Warning, listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. Here we go. Real estate. I love talking about real estate. You know, what's the old saying? Water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. It seems like real estate is one of the things that so many people kind of have on their bucket list or wish they could dive into, but so few do because they're confused. They're overwhelmed by all the infomercials there are out there, the reality shows, or I should say unreality shows of real estate, and trying to figure out what's real, what's not real, and what's going to get them to be able to leave a job that they may be miserable at, be able to build wealth beyond what's available in stocks and mutual funds. And that's what we're going to be talking about today with my guest. He is been in the real estate industry for 11 years and a full-time real estate investor for the past 7 years. And if you do the math on that, you realize he probably jumped into real estate investing right when most people had said it was the worst time to get into real estate investment because of all of the mortgage and loan debacle that we had in this country. And it was so difficult for people to buy and sell homes. But that's exactly when he decided that, you know what, this looks like it may be a great opportunity. And that's what he does. He helps people that want to take advantage of those opportunities in real estate, but do feel that overwhelmed. They do have that confusion about what's the best way to start, and they really want to sift through a lot of the glitz and the shiny objects and the infomercials and reality shows. So with that, I am thrilled to have today on Influencers Radio, Mr. Jason Lucchesi. Jason, welcome to Influencers Radio.
Hey, Jack, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, that's what let's get right into this because I think that is where a lot of people, I don't think I've ever met someone that didn't, at least at one point in time, entertain the idea of investing in real estate. And there's always a reason not to. And the people I know that have jumped in and have done quite well with it. That's kind of where they all say they started, as a newbie, I guess you would call it. And they were able to find some kind of mentor or, had a friend or someone that kind of helped them navigate through all of this stuff. So let's dive right in there because, the old saying, every newbie every successful real estate investor, millionaire real estate investor, was just a newbie that didn't quit. And that's kind of where you were. So let's start off with, you were in the real estate industry in the mortgage game, back when all of this mortgage problems came up. Subprime, I guess they call it, where they would give a loan to anyone. You're right in the middle of that. So let's start there, how you kind of went from that to jumping into a full-time real estate investor.
Yeah, absolutely. Things were really, really good when I got started in the mortgage business. And it was good for a while, and to be honest with you, I did not foresee what our market was in store for. I just moved to the East Coast because of an opportunity to advance within the company. Most people may remember Countrywide Home Loans. And literally 2 months after I moved there, the subprime mortgage market completely went bottomed out. There was no more subprime loans for us to do at Countrywide, and I was on the subprime division. So there was literally no more opportunities for us to write loans. And
so, to explain what the subprime is, because I think people with selective memory may not remember this because it was something that was, right. and a lot of people may not have even realized that this was kind of at the core of our problem. But describe what a subprime loan is.
Sure. Well, a subprime loan is for somebody that really can't qualify for a conventional loan that, you have that minimum 680 FICO score or higher, and you've got the perfect job history, you've got assets in the bank. You've got a retirement account. Well, subprime is pretty much the direct opposite. You've got a horrible FICO score. You have no money in the bank. Your job history could be, all over the place, all over the board, but we could still get you approved for a loan. So, for example, Jack, if you had a 580 FICO score and you can show 2 years of job history, and you not necessarily had to have been at the same place, but just 2 years job history, you can get approved for 100% financing on a loan. It was crazy. And it's like back then you could literally have a pulse and you could get a loan and I don't say that jokingly because I'm literally, we had loans that were called stated income, stated assets. And so many of those loans, after the market collapsed, so many of those loans just got foreclosed on like crazy, mainly because people that were making maybe $5,000 to $6,000 a month, and they wanted they wanted the materialistic things. They see all the neighbors driving the Mercedes and the BMWs, and they live in the big houses. Well, they're like, well, I'm going to get a stated income, stated asset loan. I'm going to say I'm making $30,000 a month, and that I have $1 million in the bank. Well, the thing about that was the underwriter would just take their word for it. Okay. Now the underwriter would obviously look and be like, they would see, does that income match up with that job industry? That would be it. They wouldn't verify how much they would make. They didn't verify how much they had in assets. But as long as you had a 680 FICO score or higher, boom, you just got approved for, a house now that you cannot pay the mortgage on. Your monthly income may cover just the mortgage. And then other than that, these people would be pulling out credit cards just to live on a monthly basis, just to keep up with the Joneses. And those are the types of loans. Yeah,
I guess that if there's truth in advertising, those loans would be home loans for people that have no business getting home loans, right?
Right. Exactly.
And it's not like there weren't clues. It sounds like that this was just dripping in clues that this was not going to turn out well. So that was the business that you were in, which must have been great for the mortgage companies that were, writing these and generating commissions off those. So when that went away, because you decided to jump into the real estate investing game, right?
I did. And the main reason why is, as soon as I left Countrywide, my wife and I decided to move back here to Indianapolis, and it was practically impossible for me to get a job because I have no college experience, absolutely none. And the only jobs I was getting, sent to me were 100% commission jobs, like insurance agent, getting back in the mortgage business, and anything else that you could think of to where it was 100% commission. So I was just like, well, if I'm going to be doing that, then I might as well just work for myself. And that's when I really just got into real estate. I bought several individual courses, and that's when things just started kind of, the switch was flipped at that point. And it didn't come easy. It was not easy. My wife and I just a couple months prior got married, and we were expecting our first child, and I lost a ton of money in my 401k when Countrywide stock just like completely plummeted. So I tell people my back was not up against the drywall. It was literally, I was through the drywall, through the studs, and my back was way up against the wall, through the drywall, and I needed to do something. And it was real estate. I saw that as my avenue of being able to be the provider that was needed in the family. And I needed to do that in a hurry.
Well, one thing I want to make sure that doesn't go unnoticed is the fact that you got into real estate investing at a time when, the fact that the subprime market that you described kind of went away overnight. Not only did that affect people in the mortgage industry, but surely it affected people that were investing in real estate because they probably counted on that to sell a lot of the houses that they were buying and rehabbing and flipping. So this also seemed like it would probably be a very tough time to jump into the real estate investment game. Have you found that it's improved dramatically over that time? Talk about what you faced then, because I love when there's people that are helping others that have been through the tough times. They haven't just been in the times when everything was great. You actually, went through those very, very lean times and were able to make it work, which, makes it that much, easier and better as things get better. So talk about what the subprime mortgage, the whole debacle, how it affected real estate investors at that time and changed the game.
Well, investors that were not prepared for what happened in '07 and '08 completely got taken in the cleaners. There was loans that we were doing for people in some parts of the country, Jack, that their house appraised for 120 12 months prior, and then all of a sudden the value of the house is 250, and people were getting 100% financing on these loans. So they were way over leveraged, and a lot of investors were getting fix and flips. They were taking these properties and they were getting them maxed out, meaning they were getting the full loan amount on these properties. And when the market took that crash, it really impacted several investors that got these loans and they were at 100% financing. And now they've got a house that used to be worth $250 and now it's worth $160. So now they're completely upside down. And for somebody like me that was coming in, the big thing at that point in time was doing what's called a short sale. And I would come in, I would talk to the homeowner, either be an investor or the actual homeowner that lived there, and I would let them know that I was interested in purchasing their house. First of all, they were ecstatic that I'd want to buy it, and I would let them know that, hey, this is what we need to do. And what I would do is I would actually negotiate with the bank to settle on a less than what's owed on their mortgage. So if they owed $250, I would try and negotiate to get the property between $60,000 or $70,000. And most of the banks at that time, short sales they've been around for decades. They were a different name before, short sale came out as the term, because they weren't being done as much. But when this happened, the banks didn't really know what to do. So they were analyzing the short sales, and at that point in time, they were accepting a lot of short sale offers. And I'm not saying I would get a house at $60,000 and it'd be worth $160. It did happen every once in a while, but that wasn't always the norm. But that's what would happen, is I would be able to do a short sale with a homeowner. They would be able to get out from underneath the property. I would already have the property under contract. And before I even spent any of my own money, because I didn't have any, I already had a buyer lined up, either it be a retail buyer that was getting financing from a mortgage company, or an investor that was like, oh my gosh, she's able to pick this property up, for 50% of what it's worth. I want to buy that. And so most of the time, 95% of the time, I would have a buyer already lined up by the time I received an approval from the bank. And then all I would do is just do what's called a same-day closing. I would close on the transaction in the morning for $60,000, and then I would sell it at another closing in the afternoon for $85,000, $90,000, and walk away with the difference. So that's what was happening.
So it sounds like there's a way to make it work in just about any market, and you were kind of forced to figure that out when you jumped in this. You kind of figured out that heads you win, tails you win kind of scenario. And you mentioned about the fact that you didn't have much money. You see a lot of times on infomercials and these systems that, they figured out some, magic secret formula to buy houses for $10 or things like that. And one of the things that I really like and appreciate about you is you talk in real language, that people can understand, and these secret formulas, the way that you describe them, I guess they're not so secret. I guess people like to just kind of put their own nice shiny bow around things that are really proven strategies, right? So, let's say someone, they're working in a job, they have some savings, they want to get into real estate, but there's always the risk. They're worried about the risk. How does someone do something, maybe similar to what you just described, or other strategies that you may use where they don't have to risk a ton of that money? They're not out spending tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on real estate to see if it works. If they want to prove this to themselves with, very low risk, are there ways to do that today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What I typically teach somebody that's coming right into the business is wholesaling. It's where you find a property from a motivated seller. So, for example, say, Jack, your property is for sale and you're wanting to sell it for $50,000 and it's worth $100,000. Okay. And let's just say there's 5 or 10 grand worth of work on it. So what I do is I would get that property under contract with you. And then let's say I want to just flip that contract, okay, to one of my end buyers. Let's just say his name's Ed in this example. So what I'm doing is I've got the contract from you, Jack, for 50 grand, and then I'm selling it to my investor, my buyer, for 60 grand. So what I'm doing is, again, I'm closing with you in the morning, Jack, on your property. Okay, you're happy. You're getting your property, sold to me. Okay, so you're getting out from it. And then I turn around maybe an hour or 2 hours later, and I'm selling it to my investor. Okay, and I'm making the difference between that. And at that point, I never had any of my actual own money in that deal. Maybe an earnest money deposit. Maybe you came to me, Jack, you're like, hey, I want to know that you're serious. I need you to put down $100 or $500 deposit, an earnest money deposit. I'm like, all right, not a problem. And there's ways that you can structure that, Jack, to where if you don't have the earnest money deposit, you can be like, no problem. I'll put in the contract that you will have those funds 3 days prior to the closing. And at that point, how I structure it is I receive my earnest money deposit from my buyer, from Ed, and then I use that money and give it to you so that I'm serious. So I already have everything completely lined up, and that I'm serious. I'm wanting to close. And then we go to the closing table, and at that point, I literally had zero of my own money involved on the transaction. I used the money that Ed gave me for his deposit, and then I used that money and I used it on the deal between you and I. So there is no money at all out of my own pocket involved here. Now, there's really little risk on that transaction. The only way it could go sour is if Ed bails out on me. But I've never, in my career here, ever had a buyer that put down a deposit back out on a transaction.
Now, some may hear what you just said and think, is that legal? I've heard stories about, things that happen, illegal flipping houses or things like that. And this sounds like, take this money from this guy and then give it to this guy and buy a house and sell a house in the same day. So is this happening at a title company or fee attorney's office, or is this happening at someone's kitchen table when you do this?
No, this is happening at a title company. This is happening. And in some states, there is a requirement of having an attorney do the closing. But with my title company, as long as there's complete transparency on both transactions, okay, because when you're getting a transaction like that closed, the underwriter for the title company has to be okay with it. And it obviously has to be 100% legal. So as long as it's disclosed properly and that you are using a contract on each transaction and everything is properly disclosed, it's 100% legal to do that. It's called a simultaneous transaction.
So this is something that everybody is aware of. It's not, here, I'm going to give you this money and you just sign the back of your title, your deed, and give it to me. This is, when you say transparency, that means that both the parties involved understand what's going on. Really, the big thing, the seller just says, I don't care. I just want to get this closed. And so everybody knows, and when you have a title company involved, they're actually providing title insurance on this to the buyer. So it goes down in a very similar way as in when someone just traditionally buys a house with a mortgage that they live in, kind of all the same steps.
Right. Everything. Yeah. The title company wouldn't close on a transaction if their underwriter wouldn't be able to give title insurance on it. It's just something that they would not do. And if they felt like it was at all, illegal or in a gray area, the title company does have an attorney that they have on retainer, and they'll review the transaction to make sure it is legal, because they don't want to have their underwriter for the title insurance call that transaction back. That would be highly illegal and would be constituted as fraud. So we make sure that the title company's fine with it, their attorney's fine with it, and even before we go to that length, my attorney reviews the documents that I use, and as long as everything's completely transparent, the attorneys have signed off on it, you're good to go.
Well, I think, that is kind of a relief to a lot of folks, I'm sure, because, you see a lot of these courses over the years that, have these, well, it's simple, you just, go find Granny and give her some money and have her sign the back of the deed and transfer it to you and you're done, right? And obviously that's caused a lot of grief and problems for a lot of people, but it sounds like the way that you do it, it's kind of a win-win-win situation.
Absolutely.
With everyone involved. So that sounds like when you're talking about not much money involved, how much money are you generally putting at risk of your own money in this type of transaction?
No, that's a great question. And the way I would do these transactions is to where, like, if you're definitely requiring an earnest money deposit from me, what I'm telling you at that point in time is I'm going to put in the contract, put in the addendum. If I don't have any money, I will put in the contract that I will give you earnest money deposit 3 days prior to closing. Now, if you say, no, I need the funds now, then I will make sure that I negotiate with you for the earnest money deposit. And we proceed that route to where you will receive earnest money deposit. I'll say typically at that point, if you say no to the 3 days prior to closing, which I've had that happen before. I don't want to say never, but if that happens, I'll say after my inspection period has been complete. So the inspection period could take anywhere from 5, 7, or 10 days. And then I could get you those funds. At that point in time, I've already lined up a buyer. Typically on these transactions, I'm using investors that have cash and they can close quickly and that they can put down what's called a non-refundable deposit. So I'm taking that non-refundable deposit money and I'm giving you the money that you're requiring for your earnest money deposit. And at that point in time, there's no money. As long as I structure it properly, there's absolutely no money that ever comes out of my own pocket.
Well, yeah, I guess that's where a lot of people have the fear of jumping into real estate, is that they think they're going to have to buy a house for cash or go and get a mortgage where they put 20% down or something like that, to do that. And there's obviously a lot of people that are, are doing that. So with that wholesaling, that sounds like it's a way to get in and actually generate some cash. The scenario that you described sounds like you profited somewhere around $10,000 in that scenario of
right.
doing that. You just kind of same day buying and selling a house, and kind of collecting your fee for putting that together. What are some of the other ways that people can be successful today in investing in real estate? And I guess if you want to put into there today's market, obviously today's market is much better than it was in 2007. And it seems that lending has eased up a little bit, but it still is nowhere near what it was. So given today's real estate market, what are some of the strategies outside of the wholesaling that you described, that people can do to take advantage of this?
Sure. So with me, I'm not one of these types of people to where, like you said, slap it with a bow on it and call it a special surprise or what have you. I don't have like a special hack or some loophole that I use. It's pretty basic. Right now, the ways that I'm showing people how to make money and how I'm making money as a full-time real estate investor, wholesaling, which we just went over, and rehabbing. Rehabbing is great if you can purchase properties at the right prices and you've done your due diligence, meaning if the property needs rehab, that you have done the due diligence needed to factor that in for what you're purchasing the property for. You're going to make really good money off of rehabbing properties. Now, the thing is, I personally tell people, don't do it yourself, okay? Unless you are an actual contractor that's licensed, bonded, and insured, don't do it. It's a complete, waste of time. And not only is it a waste of time, you're probably not going to do it right. So I factor in when I'm getting a rehab that I'm factoring how much it's going to cost for a general contractor to come in and do this and do the job the right way. And that helps me focus on getting more business into my pipeline. So I'm not focusing, 12 hours a day doing stuff at the house. I'm focusing on building more business and getting more wholesale deals in the pipeline and more rehab deals in the pipeline. And I let the general contractor handle the property. I'll go there maybe, once a day for maybe less than an hour to check it out. Or in some cases where I'm investing in other states, I'll just hire a project manager that will receive, some of the profits from the transaction to make sure everything is going the way that we want the rehab to be going, that everything is being properly taken care of with our timeline on that property, to ensure that, we're going to hit our projections and our dates for completion.
You mentioned a couple of things there I want to hit on. One is the amount of time that you spend on the property and doing things. And one of the things that people see on these reality TV shows is the investor. It seems like they're practically living at these houses, and they've got sledgehammers themselves knocking out walls, and it seems like every time they turn around, someone's screwing something up, that they have to be there, 24 hours a day. So, let's talk about that myth versus reality. Is that something that people would need to plan on when they get into rehabbing? Is that to spend a significant amount of time at that property? You said you maybe look at it, was it once a day, I think you said, or you stop by there? Well, what is the actual time commitment? Is it anywhere near what you see on these shows?
I would say that it's nowhere near what you're seeing on the reality TV shows. And, you get some good ideas from the shows. I'm not going to say the shows are completely off track or off base, but 90% of what you're seeing is just for TV. That's what sells. If I was on TV and you saw a big guy like myself, the investor with a big sledgehammer, taking down some cabinets, that's exciting to see. They don't want to see a contractor that has 30 years experience doing that. It's not what sells. So, sometimes I may go there once a day, but in all honesty, I haven't looked at a property in the past almost 3 years because I've had project managers take care of the properties that we're rehabbing, meaning they only get paid when that property is done and goes on the market and sells. So their motivation is making sure that the contractors are doing everything that they said they were going to do. And a good thing about a project manager is they will actually get in there and get their hands dirty if needed to make sure that we're hitting our timelines and that the properties are going to go on the market when we originally planned on it. You know, the things with reality TV is, you know, those people, there's only a certain amount of properties that they actually film. And most of the time they're just there when they can cause some sort of a conflict or drama. So
it is. Like you said, it makes great TV when that happens. Without that, it would be pretty boring, I guess.
It would. It would. A lot of this stuff is caused by, you know, induced drama by the producers. So that happens with TV. Does stuff like that happen? Like contractors screw up? Yeah. And I talk to them, and we might get into a heated conversation. So those things do happen, but maybe not to the degree that some of the TV shows make it out to be.
Not every week, at least.
No, not every week for sure.
Well, you know, and the other thing that you mentioned that I want you to hit on is you talk about doing properties that aren't local to you geographically in other areas. And some may think that, well, you know, how is that possible? It seems like, you know, you have to be there. You have to see it, smell it, you know, touch it, to really make that kind of decision. So talk a little bit about how you, do properties that are outside of your area.
Okay. So I started really getting into doing other markets outside of mine in 2011. And I really decided on doing that because some parts of my market were getting a little competitive. And that's normal. So I always, whenever I go into a new market, the first thing I do is find out who is buying properties. I find out who is buying them. So I find the cash buyers first. So the other investors that have cash. And then once I find out exactly what they want, I start having myself or somebody on my team. Okay. I have a pretty lean company. So when I say me, it's either me, my wife, or my assistant. And so we go to these other markets, we line up the cash buyers first, and then we start finding the properties that they want. Once we find the properties that they want, we find out how we can get access to the property. And then we let the investor know, hey, I've got this property. It meets the criteria that you told me. You said you wanted a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. Those were your minimums. And you wanted to stay under $85,000. Well, this property is priced at $55,000. And to be honest with you, I have not gone in. I've not seen it. So I'm giving you an amazing deal right now. I'm only sending this out to you and 2 other buyers. You've got until 3 days before it goes out to the rest of the buyers that are on my list. So go take a look at it. Let me know if you're interested. If you are, great. We'll put it under contract. The great thing about that is, Jack, once I get that contract signed between the buyer and then I'm signing a contract between the seller, I never even have to go to that state. Everything can be sent to me through the mail, and I can also give what's called a limited power of attorney so that the whole entire transaction could be done there in a different state. For example, I'm in Indianapolis. Let's just say it's in Boise, Idaho. I don't have to go to Boise. I could just give somebody that I know, maybe an attorney, power of attorney for that particular transaction. They sign everything on my behalf, and I get the funds, the proceeds, the profit wired into my bank account. So the most important thing is making sure that whenever you go into a market or your own market is that you're putting together the cash buyers first. And that's what we always do before we start finding properties.
Well, I think that leads me to the next question. You know, there's an old, I think it was Steve Martin had a great bit on, he said he was putting out his new book, How to Be a Millionaire. And so here it is, the easy steps to how to be a millionaire. Well, the first thing you do is you get $1 million. All right. And that's what seems like so many of these programs and infomercials kind of skate over is, you know, they talk about, you know, the money that you can make, the profits that it can make, but get down to the real $1 million question is, how do you find properties where there is that profit margin in there? And I think that's where a lot of people have a hard time getting their head around that. You know, you just don't see houses every day that, well, it's worth 120, but I'm going to sell it to you for 60. So what to kind of describe that if it doesn't go into, then this seems to be the secret, you know, behind a lot of real estate investors, you know, the programs that you see out there, their secret strategy. What is that? How does that happen? And, you know, how feasible is it that will happen on a regular basis to be able to do this?
Sure. So I would say my secret, you know, ninja top secret tactic per se would be getting to the direct source. And what I mean by that is getting to the direct source to where these aren't deals that you find on Craigslist or on the multiple listing service, which the multiple listing service would be the MLS that you would get deals through the real estate agent. I'm talking about deals that, you know, nobody else really has access to. And that means getting direct to banks, hedge funds, private equity firms, portfolio lenders, and also the biggest one that myself and several other student investors of mine, we've been finding great deals through private investors that we've been finding on LinkedIn. And that's one of the best sources, is finding direct deals through LinkedIn. Believe it or not a lot of people use LinkedIn. And there's so much opportunity on LinkedIn. You would be like, wow, it's an amazing opportunity with finding the direct sources that you need for giving you access to properties that I call off market. And off market just means that, you know, it's not on Craigslist, it's not on YouTube, it's not on Google. It's coming directly from one of those sources that I just named off. And
when you say sources, are there people that are individuals want to sell their homes? Are these similar to when you talked about like the short sales? Are these institutions that have properties that they need to get off their books, or you know, what describe the source?
Sure. So let me describe if you contact an asset manager at the bank. So if I wanted to contact an asset manager at the bank, I'm getting to them with the properties that they're wanting to get off their books, like you said, Jack. And I'm getting to them before they contact a real estate agent to list maybe a property that they took back from foreclosure. So I'm getting to them before they have to start contacting a real estate agent, pay them, 6% in commissions. I'm getting to them before that. And this is before it gets on the market. So say, for instance, I find a property that they just took back and I'm talking to them about it. Say the property is worth, in its current condition, $100,000. Well, most of the time, those banks are just wanting to liquidate as quickly as possible because they don't want negative debt showing up on their books. So most of the time, they're wanting to sell those properties for 30, 40 cents on the dollar for that particular property. So for this case, I'm able to pick it up for, let's say $40,000. I'm able to pick a property up that's completely off market. One of my cash buyers already said, hey, I'm looking for this, this, and this, and I just found it for them, and they're wanting to buy it as quickly as possible. Those are the types of transactions I'm able to find through the banks, through the hedge funds. And those types of deals are happening all the time. And it's simply by picking up the phone and calling over and talking to the person, which some of the techniques that I teach is finding the correct decision maker using LinkedIn. I know it sounds like that easy, but it is. I go to LinkedIn, type in asset manager as the title for somebody at a bank, and there's millions of people that have asset manager in their title. And then I could start going down and filtering through to find the right people at banks that are wanting to sell properties.
You know what, Jason? I think you have just got your membership to the Real Estate Magicians Union revoked for giving away the secrets, because that's one of the reasons I consider you an influencer, is because you have no problem telling people how this stuff is done, and that really is no secret magic formula, as much as that sounds great, but it really is real strategies that makes sense. And one of the other things that you do that is unique is, I'm sure a lot of people, that they've been interested in investing in real estate, they've, gotten in their mail or email something about a local seminar where they can go down to, and it usually ends up with a big pile of cellophane wrapped books in the back that they can buy on that secret strategy. But you help folks, and you do work with them, and I guess it's more of a mentor type of thing, but it's not the seminars with the cellophane wrapped books. You do things quite a bit differently. Would you mind kind of describing the kind of intimate and unique thing that you put together for folks that are serious about wanting to learn how to do real estate the right way?
Yeah, no, absolutely. What I have, it's called the Investor Boardroom. And the great thing about it is I only allow 10 people to come into it. And I have them once a month here in Indianapolis. The only time that we don't do it is the month of December, just because, let's face it, people are nuts that time of month. Traveling's crazy, and people are shopping. They have different things on their mind at that point in time. So that's the only month we don't do it. But the cool thing about the Investor Boardroom is I'm not speaking in front of 200, 300 plus people. I minimize it to 10 because it allows me to really focus on each individual. I'm there to really help and serve each person that's there. And I find out what each person really needs, weeks before they're even there. And we've already put together a blueprint. You worked with me on a one-on-one fashion, and we already know what needs to be done. And by the time you come and spend the 3 days with me, we're refining, enhancing, and really putting together a blueprint that you can take and start, putting into action immediately. Because the thing that I found so frustrating after attending these for years was I would come home, I would be all jazzed up, hearing these people talk about how much money they made. It was great, but I never had a plan of what to do. I would come home, I purchased all these programs, and now I've got 5 different programs, and I have no direction, and I have really a lack of focus because I've got all these programs and I don't really know what to do. And at the Investor Boardroom, there's nobody that's coming in and trying to sell you something. It's 3 days of truly getting into what's working today, how we can make you money, how we're going to make you financially free, and truly hit on what's your why. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, Jack, it's not all about making a ton of money. You've got to have a why behind why you want to make all this money. So that's what we really hit on. And with me, we're just opening up what's called the Johnny Fund, which is for the Johnny Fund is going to be for raising money for helping children that are battling leukemia. Because I had a brother that passed away when he was 3 years old of leukemia, And it was a really tough time for my family. And I want to be able to put together funds to where I could help those families that are in need, that have children facing that unfortunate circumstance. So that's one of my big whys. And on top of that, my wife Jamie, my 7-year-old, my 5-year-old, and my almost 9-month-old daughter. Those are my whys as well. So it's not all about just making the money. You've got to have a bigger purpose, a bigger why, or else more than likely we're not a match to be working together. Because I like working with people that have a bigger why and aren't into all the materialistic things.
Well, Jason, again, that's certainly why I consider you an influencer, and it goes well beyond, here's how you can make some quick cash and jet off to Acapulco afterwards, right? It really is. It goes into a lot deeper than that. And I think anyone that is interested in getting into real estate and they're new and they're overwhelmed or confused, I think that your style of laying it out without the magic secret formulas and just giving real answers, is what people need to make the right decision, because it is a big decision when you get into this. And I appreciate you, coming on to, Influencers Radio and sharing that. How can people find out more about Jason Lucchesi and if they want to get involved with the boardroom or just keep up with what you're doing, how can they find out more?
Sure. So first of all, I want to say thanks for having me, and thanks for everybody that's listening to this right now. This is great, Jack. I think what you put on with a lot of the top influencers in the industry is awesome. So congratulations on having such an awesome show. And for those people that want to reach out and schedule up a time for us to talk, there's no charge. You can simply go to jasonluchesi.com, and that's JASON, and my last name, which is the tough part there. It's LUCCHESI and then .com. So jasonluchesi.com, and right there, slap on the website, you could click the contact me section there, and you could schedule up a time for us to talk about you and your business and how I can help you.
Well, fantastic. I encourage everyone to do that and check it out. JasonLuchesi.com. Again, that's JasonLuchesi.com. And we'll have a link there right there on the show post, because that is a mouthful. And I challenge anyone to find a spell check that would get that right. So Jason, again, thanks so much for coming on to Influencers Radio. It's been great information, and I love it when people come on without fear or hesitation and sharing exactly what they do. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, folks, there you have it. Check it out, jasonluchesi.com. And until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/influencersradio.